is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual professional legal advice. The podcast information was carefully compiled from vetted sources and references. However, Rose Resources outreach to safeguard the elderly cannot guarantee that you will not fall victim to a scam. Let's talk about scams. It's the must-listen show for anyone who wants to protect themselves and their loved ones from scams. Every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio, Joyce Petrowski, founder of Rose, and her guests will provide valuable insights and practical tips on how to recognize and protect yourself from scams. And now, here is your host, Joyce Petrowski.
Welcome back, everybody. It's April 15th. It's tax day. How many of you out there like April 15th? I don't think many people do. But anyways, I'm Joyce Petrowski, your host and board president and founder of Rose Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. You can find more resources on our website at roseadvocacy.org. You can also find our social media links. And you can sign up for our newsletters. We send one out via email and one in the mail. There are links down towards the bottom there to sign up for those, the bottom of the homepage. So today, I want to talk about the IRS Identity Protection Pin and why you should have one. It is tax day. Tax returns are due today, but if you haven't gotten a PIN yet, you can still get one. You should go ahead and file your tax return, because it's due today, but you can still get a PIN. You can get an identity protection PIN at any time throughout the year. So what is an identity protection PIN? So the IRS came up with this years ago, and it's a 6-digit number, PIN number, that is confidential information. You should not share this with anybody. If you have a tax preparer that prepares and e-files your tax return for you, then they're going to have to know the number because it has to be on your tax return. But outside of that, no one else should know this number. You put it away in a safe hiding place, in a locked place with all of your other personal confidential information. And the reason the IRS came out with it, or I should say probably one of the reasons, is they started to see a huge uptick in tax-related identity theft. So what exactly is tax-related identity theft? Well, one of the situations with tax-related identity theft is someone files a tax return in your name and your Social Security number. It happens all the time. Now, if you had this identity protection PIN assigned to you, it doesn't matter who files the tax return, whether it's someone else or even if it's you. If that return does not have your identity protection PIN on it, it'll get rejected. So it's a great protection tool for your IRS account and your identity. Because if someone files a fraudulent return in your name and Social Security number, and you do have this identity protection PIN, and it is not on that return gets automatically rejected. So it doesn't even get into your account. And I'm going to give you a little bit of some personal experience that I've had with this. And I said a little bit, but as I said that, I'm thinking it's probably going to take a few minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes to go through the story. So I had found out about this identity protection PIN probably about a year ago, maybe a little longer. And I said to myself, since I file married filing jointly with my husband. And since everything happens to be like withholdings and estimated tax payments, or even if, it all seems to be tagged to the first Social Security number that's on the return, which is his. So I immediately got him one. And I didn't think about getting me one. And then last summer, I think it was, I was doing some more research on this identity protection pin. And one of the things they have in their frequently asked questions is why you need the identity protection pin. And yes, both spouses do need it, because what affects one spouse affects the joint account. What affects the other spouse affects the joint account. Well, hindsight's 2020, as we all know. And yes, I should have taken 5 minutes right then and there to get online, set up my account, and get verified and get my PIN. It's a pretty quick process when you do it online. And I didn't. And so come early September, and we still had not filed our tax return for 2023, but come early September, I'm going through the mail. And here's this envelope from the IRS, and it's addressed just to me. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why is it addressed just to me? We've been filing joint for 30 years. And I open it up, and sure enough, it's a letter telling me that they've received a tax return under my name and my Social Security number. And it gives you specific instructions. If this was you, fine. If it wasn't you, well, then these are the steps you need to take. And then this is where the long process started to get my account in order. There was a phone number for tax-related identity theft. If you were a victim of tax-related identity theft, they have a specific phone number for you to call. So I called. I had to go through a verification process because they want to make sure they're talking to me, and I get that. So I went through that process, and then they did tell me that yes, there was a tax return, and I asked them, can you tell me what address it was being sent to? And they are not allowed to give you any information about that fraudulent return. So what they did is, the lucky thing for me was that the IRS had flagged that return as being possibly fraudulent. So they had not started to process it fully yet. And so then I verified that it was fraudulent, that we had not filed a return, and verbally over the phone. But then there's this form, a tax-related identity theft affidavit, that you have to fill out. And you can do it. I believe I did it and sent it in online, but you can also do it and send it in the mail as well. And then you have to give them time to process that form. And they did. The lady, very nice lady, did let me know on my first phone call with them to confirm that this was a fraudulent return, that this whole process can take up to, and she said either 530 days or 630 days. I don't remember if it was 530 or 630, but it doesn't matter. It's still a long, long time in order for this fraudulent return to be taken off of our account. And like I said earlier, because I'm on a joint account with my husband, it not only affects me, it affects him, because we're both on that joint account. And so I was like, okay. And she said, if you are expecting a refund, you're not going to get that refund until we have this process completed. And I went, okay, well, we are expecting, I didn't say this to her, but talking to our tax preparer, I said, well, the refund's going to get held up, so just apply it to 2024. So that's what she did, our tax preparer, and we sent our tax returns, our valid tax returns, in early October. Well, in December, then I tried calling. I'd given them, 2.5, 3 months, and I tried calling them, and I got someone on the phone, and they started looking into it, and we got disconnected. So then I had to call back. And when you call the IRS, you're going to be on, there's a good chance you're going to be on hold for a while. So I had to call back. And then I got someone who wanted to put me on hold again. And I said, now listen, I got disconnected last time and I'm already an hour and a half into this process. No, 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 I'm not going to disconnect you. Okay, fine. And he went and did what he needed to do, came back on the phone, told me he was going to go do one other thing. And when he put me on hold that time, we got disconnected. Now, whether that was my cell phone doing it or whether it was their phones, I have no idea. The bottom line is I got disconnected again, and it's a pain in the butt, right? Because you're getting frustrated. I don't think anyone really carves out time in their day to where they're, a couple hours where they're going to call the IRS and have to do something. Well, it was frustrating to keep getting disconnected. It was frustrated because it was taking up hours in my day when I had other things that I had going on. So I just said, you know what? It's December. It's the holiday time. They might be busy, extra busy. I don't know. I'm not even going to get frustrated anymore with it. I'm going to wait until after the first of the year and try them again. Well, then a couple days later, my husband got a letter from the IRS in the mail, and I got one from the IRS in the mail. And it said the same exact thing. It said, the amount of your overpayment that we're crediting to 2024 is zero. So we're like, okay, we have money sitting there that's owed us. We're not getting it refunded. Now we're not getting it credited to 2024. So when we file our tax return for 24, we can't even show that in there. And if it shows we owe more money because they're not taking that into consideration, we're going to have to pay it. And then like we said, we could have to wait 530 days or 630 days to get it back. So it ended up being probably the beginning of March. I did get a hold of the IRS, and on this instance, when I called, I was only on hold for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So I was pleasantly surprised at that one. But the lady was very helpful. They had to verify me over the phone, which was fine. You're going to want to have your previous year's tax returns out, probably the previous 2 years at least out, because they're going to go back to one of those years, and they're going to want to know some information off that return that they have in their system. That's one of the things they do to verify you. They go through multiple questions. And if you don't pass it, they're not going to give you any information. So have those previous year's tax returns. I'd even go back and maybe if you have them handy, you don't know how far they're going to go back. But I got verified, and the nice lady was able to tell me that they had already gone through the process and they were working on getting that fraudulent return off of my separate account. She kind of told me I had a separate account. I think when I filed the identity theft affidavit form, they kind of put that into a totally separate account. And they were able to take our overpayment from 2023 and credit it into 2024 in our joint return. I verified that with them. And I also verified the estimated tax payments we made, that they had that all listed in our joint account. And so she said, go ahead and file your 2024 return the way you normally would. So luckily for me, that only took about 6 months to get that handled. And I'm not 100% for sure on this, but I believe that it only took 6 months because they hadn't actually processed that fraudulent return and put it through the system. And I'm sure it had a refund on it, and paid out the money to whoever it belonged to. So I'm very thankful to the IRS that they flagged it as possibly fraudulent and wanted to get some more information from me. But just know if that doesn't happen, And that's not a guarantee that it's going to get flagged as possibly fraudulent on your account. Um, it probably would still be going on. We probably wouldn't have that refund credited to our account, our joint account. And you might have money sitting with the IRS that you can't get your hands on for, what did I say, 530 or 630 days. So the identity protection pin is a very valuable protection tool um, for everybody. And spouses should have it as well. And they said even dependents can get it because, if you're, I wouldn't put it past someone, a scammer or, to file a fraudulent return if they had your dependent's name and social security number. And, you might think, well, they don't even file returns, how's that going to affect them? Or even, maybe people, that are seniors, maybe they don't file returns either. And you might think, well, it's not going to bother me, if I don't have to file tax returns. Well, it's still on your account with the IRS. And so it's still good to have one because it protects that account. And at some point, you're going to have to go through the process to clear that account up. So it doesn't take that long to get one. The fastest and quickest way to get one is to do it online. And you just go to irs.gov, and there's a link in the notes, in the show notes, with that website address, and click on apply for an IP pin. Or when you go to irs.gov, I'm sorry, go up in the search bar and put IP pin, and it'll take you right to the page. And then click on apply for an IP pin, and you can do it online. And that is the quickest, fastest way to do it. And as I said before, you are going to have to verify yourself. So have your driver's license, you're going to have to upload that. I believe they use ID Me is what it's called. Like I said, it's been 6 months since I did mine, but I believe that was the website that they used. So have your driver's license handy and go through the verification process and get that PIN. Now, it's going to take some time for them to mail that PIN to you and for you to get it in the mail. But just know you can always log back into your account and your PIN number is going to be on your account. So as another precaution for identity theft, you're going to want to make sure that whatever device that you are logging into your IRS account with, or if you have saved that PIN on your device, you are going to want to make sure you have that device locked down. You have all the security measures on it. You have the antivirus, anti-malware software on there. So it's always looking for malicious things and viruses and malware that are trying to take over your device 24/7. It's always looking for those because yes, it is a great thing to have for a tax-related identity theft. But if you've got an infected device and you're accessing your IRS account through that infected device, and you might not even know your device is infected, then whoever has that malware or virus on your device in the background, guess what? They're now able to see what you're doing, and then they can see your IP pins. So be careful of that. Make sure your device is always protected and always scanning 24/7 for those malware and viruses. Now, if you don't have access to get online, not comfortable, don't want to have to deal with getting online to do this, you can also fill out an application for an IP pin, and that's right down there. If under get an identity protection pin, you can scroll down. Well, you're not going to be on the website, so but you're going to have to find somebody that can get you that application. and download it so you can fill it out and send it in. But you're going to then have to make yourself available by phone where the IRS can, where either you or where the IRS can contact you and you can get verified that it is you before they issue you the PIN. Now you can also go down to an IRS office, find out where the IRS office is in your area and make an appointment and go down there and do it in person. But you're going to want to make sure you bring the necessary documents that you need to identify yourself. So again, I would go have somebody go on the IRS's website and scroll down as to what documents you're going to need to bring with you for an in-person appointment, or ask the person on the phone that you're making the appointment with what you're going to need. So some important information to know about these identity protection pins: they are only valid for 1 year, which is great. So it puts a cap on when a time frame cap on when that pin is valid, and they will automatically send you a new pin every year in the mail. You will get a letter in the mail from the IRS that says we've assigned you a new identity protection pin. Again, if you, and that's confidential information, you don't share it with anyone. If you don't file tax returns anymore, or or if it's a dependent that doesn't file tax returns, keep that in a safe, secure place where it's not just like sitting in a file folder where someone that might be in your fixing something, in your house can open it up and snap pictures of it. So put it in a safe, secure, locked place, so no one has access to it. You can also, as we said, if you've lost your PIN, you can also log back into your account and it'll have it in there. You can also call the IRS, and again, they're going to have to verify that it's you, but they can send you in the mail. It'll be on a letter what your PIN is. But again, that could take, I think we got ours in the mail, maybe 3 to 4 weeks it took before we got ours in the mail. So, so that's the different ways that you can apply for a PIN. And then what happens when you get it and you do file tax returns? Well, if you have someone that prepares your tax return for you and you've signed the form with them to have them electronically file your tax return, then you're going to have to give them your PIN number, because it has to be on your tax return. They're going to have to put it on your tax return before they file it electronically. Now, if you have somebody that prepares your return, but they give it to you and you manually sign it and put it in the mail, they don't need that, because when you sign the return, you're going to sign it, put the date, and then right next to the date, it's going to ask for that identity protection pin, and that's where you're going to put it. And you're going to want to put it, there's a place for the taxpayer and the spouse as well. And as I said before at the beginning, if you file your return and you have one of those pins and you do not put it on your return, it's going to get rejected. And it could take some time, right, before you know that return was rejected. And then if you, and if it's past the deadline when it was supposed to have been filed, then guess what? You could file it and have your PIN on it the second time, but say it's after April 15th that you found out that it was rejected. And now it's in May or June and you're filing the return with your IP PIN on it. Well, it's past the deadline. And if you didn't get an extension, you're going to have some penalties to pay because it's a late filing penalty. So please, please, please make sure you put your IP PIN on your tax return. That same website that we talked about, irs.gov, and then in the search bar at the top, you put IP PIN in and it'll take you right to the page. It'll give you a bunch of information about how to get an identity protection PIN, what it's for, It'll give you links to click on to get you to the application to file, to complete the application for an IP PIN, to send it in, request an in-person authentication for an IP PIN. It also has a bunch of frequently asked questions that explains exactly what an IP PIN is, who's eligible to get one, how do you do it if I can't validate my identity or access my online account, how else can I participate? What if I use an IP PIN incorrectly on my tax return? So this is what it says for that. The IP PIN acts as an authentication number to validate the correct owner of the Social Security number listed on your tax return. If an IP PIN is not entered correctly on an e-filed return, the IRS is going to reject the return, and you'll need to enter the correct IP PIN and e-file it again. If it's a paper return, if you have an IP PIN and you're the primary and or secondary taxpayer and you fail, which means you're the taxpayer or the spouse, you fail to enter your IP PIN correctly, your return will take longer to process while we validate the information. So again, it could take longer to process on that paper return if you don't have it on there correctly. Or, they could reject it and you get notified because they couldn't validate it. And now you've got to send it in again. And is it after the April 15th deadline and you don't have an extension, right? That's always, that could always happen because you don't know how long it's going to take them to try to validate. And then if they can't validate, how long is it going to take for you to get the letter in the mail? We mentioned it earlier. If you lose your IP PIN, if you did it through an online account, you can always log in there to get it. You can also call that IRS number for the IP PINs, and you could ask them to send you your IP PIN in the mail. And again, I think it took us about 3 to 4 weeks to get ours. Some other things it does talk about if you're a victim of identity theft, what you need to do. Let's see. So there is a question here that says my e-file return was rejected and the reject code said I need an IP PIN. What do I do? So that means that at least one of the taxpayers on that return has an IP PIN and it was not entered on the return. So you need to enter it on your return. I'm looking at the other questions on here. We talked about where to enter it on the return. Oh, this is a good question. Do I have to use the IP PIN I received this year if I'm filing prior year returns this year? So let's say you've missed filing your returns for a few years. And now this year you're making it up and you're filing all those prior year returns, but you have an IP PIN. Do I have to put it on all those prior year returns? The answer is yes. You must use your IP PIN to confirm your identity on your current tax return and any prior year returns filed during that year that you have that IP PIN. So there's another question here. I received an IP PIN for a deceased person. What do I do with it? If filing a return for a deceased person, then you do enter the PIN as appropriate. We did mention that you do not reuse your PIN every year. The IRS will automatically issue you a new one. Let's see what else they have here. Oh, if you're filing an extension, such as a Form 4868 to automatically extend your tax return, or if you're filing your state tax return, Do you include your PIN? And their answer is no. The IP PIN is only used on federal tax forms. It's not used on your state tax forms, and it's not used on any extensions. What if you're filing an amended tax return? And these are all in the frequently asked questions that are on that website. And the last time I just printed these off this morning, the last time they went through and updated information on this was May 16th, 2024. So it's not to say that they couldn't change the answer to these questions and then they'll put a new updated date in there. But this was updated May 16th of 24. Should I include my IP PIN when filing an amended return? Yes, the same requirements for the IP PIN that exist for filing an original return apply to if you're filing an amended return. Here's an interesting question. Will I get my refund faster if I use an IP PIN? That does not affect how quickly you get a refund. That depends on your individual return information. So, So the last question they have, and this was actually just updated on March 18th of 2025. Can I opt out of the IP PIN program? And it says, yes, if you voluntarily join the IP PIN program and have not been a victim of tax-related identity theft, then you may opt out of the IP PIN program. To find out if you're eligible to opt out, go log into your online account. And it says if you enrolled into the program through a one-time enrollment option, you opt out at the end of that calendar year. But once you do opt out, when an opt-out selection is made, you need to allow up to 72 hours before you're allowed to opt back in for an IP PIN. So lots of valuable information on the IRS.gov website, and in the search bar, put in IP, that's I as in indigo, P as in Paul, then PIN, and it'll take you right to the page. And it has a lot of great information on a variety of different scenarios. But the main thing here is that everyone should have an IP PIN. And if you don't have one, you can get one. You can do it online, set up your online account. Again, go to the website irs.gov, type in IP PIN in the search bar. It'll take you to the page with all the information, and just click on set up an IP PIN or get an IP PIN, and you'll go through the process of setting up your online account, do the verification process, and then you'll be issued your PIN. You can also make an appointment to go to your local IRS office, and you could do it there. There's a form you have to fill out. You can also mail that form in, but then you will have to be ready at some point to do a verification process, either in person at the office or over the phone. And it really is a great protection tool, because if someone files a fraudulent tax return in your name and social security number, they do not have the PIN that is required on the return. So that return will automatically get rejected. Remember my experience with not having a PIN and having that fraudulent return being filed. I will tell you that since I was a victim of tax-related identity theft, I automatically was issued an IP PIN. I did not have to go into the system and generate one and apply for one. People that are victims of tax-related identity theft are automatically enrolled in the program. So I have one now. So it will be on all of my returns from here on out, but it is a great preventative tool, protection tool with your IRS account. A lot of people might think, well, yeah, my name's out there, but people don't have access to my social security number. I haven't given it out. One of the ways people have your social security number is, the companies that are getting hacked into. You have to think about that. How many of those companies out there have your social security number? And then you can see how easy it is for scammers to get your social security number. So err on the side of caution, assume your social security number's out there, and get this identity protection pin. Trust me, it will save you a lot of time and frustration, because these fraudulent returns are getting worse and worse. So thank you guys for spending your Tuesday morning with me and learning more about the IRS identity protection pin. Thought it was a great topic to talk about since today's tax day. So please don't forget to file your returns or your extensions and make any payments that you need to make. Until next Tuesday, don't forget to get on our website at roseadvocacy.org and find more resources. Find our social media links, and down at the bottom of the homepage, you can opt into our emailed newsletter and our mailed newsletter. See you next week.
Well, that's all the knowledge for this episode. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com as Joyce explores a variety of knowledge so you have the power to make scam protection your healthy habit. And until then, feel free to reach out to Joyce and let's talk about scams.